Hey guys, my name is Matimio, and welcome to another episode of Sunday Mailbox. This is a video series where you, the viewer, can submit your gaming or Battlefield-related questions, and then I will give my humble opinion on them. To get the formalities out of the way real quick, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below, or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. The first question for the day comes from Stad, and it is, do you think that the operator classes are balanced in Rainbow Six Siege? Who do you think are the worst operators? Overall, I've been very impressed with the class balance in this game. There are a few exceptions, but in general, if you pick any of the operators that are available to your team, you're going to be a valuable asset. The exception to this rule, though, and they're pretty big exceptions, has to go to TwoChunka and IQ. TwoChunka on paper sounds awesome. Who wouldn't want to place down this big turret and then mow anyone down that rounds the corner? Like, that sounds like an amazing defensive character. In practice, though, he's just abysmal. The only strength of using the turret itself is that it does high damage. That is nice and does have a high magazine size, but when you go toe-to-toe with a competent player, they're actually gonna have probably a better weapon and less disadvantages because they can just get a headshot off on you and you're stationary. Every single weapon in this game, as long as you have the accuracy and you're going for that dome piece, you're gonna be able to kill that enemy with one bullet. And so yeah, technically TwoChunka's turret can do a lot of damage on someone, but if you go against a competent player who realizes where you're located, he scouted out the room before he's breaching on in with his drone, he's gonna peek around the corner really quickly, catch you by surprise, and land that headshot against you. It just doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. The first time that I laid eyes on TwoChunka, I assumed that he was going to be the direct counter to shield users. Because he's vulnerable but has all this firepower, if an enemy fuse or blitz rounds the corner with their shield up, I just kind of assumed that he would be the best way of dispatching them from a distance. That was going to be his role as the defensive team. Sadly, of course, that's not the case, and so what we're left with is an operator that has pretty much a useless gadget in my eyes, and while he does have nice armor, he has 3 armor, a decent weapon, that doesn't make up for the fact that every other operator on the defensive team has an amazing gadget and good weapons. Same is true for IQ on the offensive team. Her gadget is terrible. Thatcher flat out is just a better operator because while yes, IQ can identify where certain gadgets are located on the map, Thatcher is just like, I don't even care, I'll just throw a EMP grenade in the general vicinity of where the objective is located, take out every single one of the gadgets or devices on the defensive team, and then they're good to go. There's just no reason to play as IQ. Yes, she has a good weapon. Yes, she's a decent operator in that regard. But when your gadget sucks, there's so many other operators in the game that don't suck in that category. And so it's for this very reason why I feel like IQ and TwoChunka are on the lackluster end of the spectrum. And so I'm crossing my fingers that Ubisoft realizes that they're weaker and that they're gonna give them some loving in the future. Overall, I think that the class balance is great. I really do believe that they've done a good job with the class balance in general, but these, in my opinion, are the 2 weakest. The next question is, do you feel that linear maps even need a place in Battlefield? Operation Locker and Operation Metro are both just a death pit, even in Conquest, and putting them into 24/7 servers with either of these maps is just annoying. I would not go as far to say that linear maps have no place in the Battlefield franchise because there's a lot of examples in past Battlefield games where linearity resulted in some fantastic maps. Bad Company 2, almost all of them were designed in this linear fashion because many of them were completely balanced around Rush. You look back at Battlefield 3, for example, Dam of Van Peek is another great one because it was also designed around Rush. Linearity itself does not make for poor map design. What makes for poor map design is when you design it around 32 players, but then you allow the community to have 64 players on it. Operation Metro and Locker are not bad maps in of themselves, but because the servers allow them to go up to 64 players, that's where we run into a lot of these issues. They're not designed for that many people running around. As soon as you bring it down to 32, they're a hell of a lot of fun. You can flank around. Yes, there are lanes, and there's going to be some choke points, but it's not the mayhem and the grenade spam that everyone is used to right now. What's funny about this is that we have examples of large linear maps that work well with 64 players. Flood Zone is a good example. Propaganda is a good example. They're linear, they're very linear. Almost all of the objectives are in one line, but because they're actually designed in mind for 64 players, we don't run into these large glaring issues. In my opinion, the way to solve this is to not really limit the variety of the maps, because I like linearity to my maps. I think it brings in some nice variety that you're not going to get in an expansive Conquest map, but you need to limit how many players that you're going to be able to have on them. I'm hoping that in the next Battlefield, DICE has learned their lesson from the last bunch of them, and that is where if you have a map that is designed around 32 players, don't allow servers to bump it up to 64. Some people might disagree with me on this. I know that this is a little bit controversial because, hey, if all of these Operation Metro and Locker servers are as popular as they are, then who am I to say that, oh, well, we shouldn't have that type of stuff in the next Battlefield game? From a balance perspective, though, and just maybe I'm being selfish here, I would like them to do it because I love playing on Metro, I like playing on Lockers, but because all you can find is the 64-player ones, we run into these issues. But of course, that is just my 2 cents. The next question comes from Luke, and it is, in Rainbow Six Siege, when you're defending the hostage, do you think that you should be able to move the hostage around within the room that they're located in? I feel like this would add a little dynamic to the mode, but I'm sure people would use them as a human shield. I also thought about this because I'm right there with you. It would make things more dynamic. When you're on offense and you know that it's hostage rescue, you're going to have to be wary. I mean, you already have to be wary. You have to already plan around not killing the hostage in this game mode, but would kind of ramp it up to the next level because you're not exactly sure where it's going to be located inside of the room. The problem with this is that if Rainbow Six Siege wants to be a competitive tactical first-person shooter, I feel like there needs to be some consistency with their game modes. If the objective is always random inside of the room itself, or it can be moved around, that's going to lead to a lot of frustration. We already have a lot of times right now where people just don't know the maps well enough, and they especially don't know exactly where the hostage is inside of the rooms, and we have a lot of moments where they will blindly fire into a room because they see movement. They, of course, saw the hostage. Now, compound upon that, where you can move around the hostage, people are going to be blind firing and thinking that they're seeing an enemy because it's not where the hostage was last round, and of course, I think this would lead to a lot of frustration. And so I realized that it would be more realistic because in a real life situation, if a terrorist has a bunch of hostages, they're going to move them around and they are going to use them as a human shield. But because, of course, it's a video game, I feel like you should be rewarded with map knowledge and that consistency. And so while it's an interesting idea, I also thought about this as well. I don't think that this would be a good change for Rainbow Six Siege. But yeah, guys, that is about it for today's Sunday Mailbox. I hope you enjoyed. As always, if you would like to submit your own question that could be featured in an upcoming episode, you can do so by leaving a comment down below or by sending me a Facebook and Twitter message. But until tomorrow, guys, have a good one and take it easy.